So I'm going to pray affirmative prayer treatment, and then we'll take 2 minutes in silence to go deep. There is only one love, one light, one joy, one grace, one wisdom, and it is all everywhere because there's only that one. We can call it God or Spirit. I like to call it Source because it's the source of love, light, grace, joy. And it lives within, through, and as me, in, through, and as each of us. There is no place that Source is not. It's everywhere. The smallest of grains of sand and the largest thing you can imagine is all of that. Because there is intelligence, Source is intelligent. Because there is love, Source is love. Because there is grace, peace, all of it, because they exist, they are of Source. I am grateful to know this, that I am that is within me, flowing through me, out as me in the world, as each of us in the world. There's no part of me that is God, that is not God in essence. There is no part of me that is separate from Spirit, from Source. I embrace this truth. Today, I embrace that there is no part of me that is without joy. There is no part of me that is without community, because we are each of us reflections of that community, that joy, that oneness, that love, that is Spirit. And we gather together to hug, to shake hands, to bump elbows, to smile across the room at each other. We gather on the magical, mystical waves of the internet to enjoy each other's company. Because we can, because we're called to do so, and we do it easily, gracefully. Today we enjoy the new voice of Reverend Karen. We enjoy the wisdom which Reverend Karen channels. Open to curiosity, open to surprise, we say yes. And I am grateful for this yes. I am grateful for this love, this community, this wisdom. I am grateful for it all. And I release my word of gratitude into the law, and the law's already got it made, already doing it. It is in the works. So join me in knowing that it is in the works, that there is a great big yes involved here by saying, and so it is.
Just me again. No, I'm just messing with you. I am so pleased to introduce our guest speaker this week. Reverend Karen Cleveland is a minister, a spiritual director, and a professional animal communicator. We'll see more about that later, right? One thing that Reverend Cleveland likes to share is the message that we're all intertwined and related. So we can relate to that, right? So we're so happy to have you here. So Reverend Karen, hailing from just north of Seattle, loves to travel, garden, and escape into a movie for a few hours. She shares her home with 2 cats, a dog, several chickens, and her husband, Patterson. Yes, that was prioritized list. So, without further ado, Reverend Karen Cleveland.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, it's great to be here. Good morning, everyone. Good morning on Zoom. Sorry I don't get to see you personally, those of you that are joining us remotely. Oh, what a beautiful morning. I had to say, when the cocoons were up here, how painful that cocoon area is. Has anyone been in that before you experience your transformation? It sucks. It sucks. And that's not my talk today, but it just reminded me, it's like, oh, that's such a painful part to be in, but then things get so much better. So if you're in it, stay with it. If you go through it again, stay with it. We all go through it, in and out. Anyway, so I'm here to talk about the inner and outer spectrum. What does that mean, the inner and outer spectrum? And briefly, that the inside, our insides, our thoughts, our heart's desires, our goals, our dreams, are they reflected in our outside world? How people view us, how we interact in the world, the feedback we get. You know, it should be congruent. What's going on inside us, who we think we are, who we believe we are, what's important to us, should be reflected on the outside. And I kind of like to think of it as a circle. As the outside world gives us feedback, as we see our life, you know, and it comes inside and it runs through everything that's going on inside us and goes back out, and we see what we think, what we expect to see. It's kind of like a circle, and the ideal is that this circle is unbroken, because when it's unbroken, it means we're in alignment and we are seeing life as we think we expect to see life, and life is seeing us as we expect it to. But when there's a break, a gap, it hurts. We're out of alignment. We might feel lost. We might feel, you know, despair or sadness, or, you know, just like there's no meaning in life, unfulfillment. So our goal, one of our goals, I think, is to make sure that we keep what's going on inside and the outside matches. Now, I'm an animal communicator. I want to tell you a little story about one of my clients, because I think the animals reflect our inner world more than we think they do. Does anyone here have a pet at home? Okay. So, and some of you at home, you might have a cat or dog on your lap right now. You know, lucky you. So, let me just tell you really briefly before I get into my client story, the 101 on how animal communication works. Actually, it's negative 101. It's the very, very basic. So we're all energy. I think probably you might know that already, right? Everything is energy in this world. We are connected. And the energy fields just kind of go back and forth between everyone and everything. And this is how I communicate with animals, and this is how animals communicate with each other. You know, we're animals, so we have this ability, and animals, you know, there's many ways they communicate with each other. This is just one. But we put things into this energy field that are picked up by others, and that includes emotions. You might have walked into a room or passed someone one time and thought, oh, it's so tense in here. What's going on? What do we say? We say the tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife. And that's just, you know, like walking into a room, not knowing what happened before you got there. Or you can also feel, you know, you walk past someone, you might feel love, you might feel joy, you might just feel happy for no reason, you have no idea why. But you might get uplifted if you're near someone else that's happy. And certainly, if you've been sitting next to someone and they are stewing in their mind about bad things, it's kind of bringing you down. You might feel like you got to be really aware of what you say or do. And it's different if you're sitting next to someone that's very happy and light and joyful. So anyways, so emotions from animals, from all of us, we pick up on those from other people, other animals. Physical feelings as well. There's a, what is it, Cuvade syndrome? I can't remember the name of it now. But there's studies that show that sometimes men can actually pick up the pregnancy symptoms from his partner who is pregnant. He might get cravings, he might get some physical pains. And that's obviously he's not pregnant. So he's picking this up from his partner. And this might happen all the time too with you. Is, your partner or someone in your house has a bad back or has a headache, and you might start getting the same thing. The animals pick it up from us all the time. They try to help heal us a lot because they're our little nurturers and lovers and fixers sometimes. So physical things. And then the other thing that we exchange is pictures. If I start telling you about maybe a journey I took last year about climbing up a mountain, well, not climbing it, but walking up a trail with trees on the side and, walking along this beautiful dirt path with streams and then getting to the top above the tree line and there's snow all over and rocks all over. I'm not showing you a picture, but how many saw some kind of a mountain or trees or trail? So when we talk, we kind of create pictures in our head, accidentally, and the animals pick up on this. So animals don't know language very well. They can learn words, but in general, they are picking up on what we are transmitting to them via pictures and feelings, both emotional and physical feelings. Okay, now to my client real fast. So this was the second time I'd had this client. And I'm telling you this story because it shows how this is one example of how our inner world and our outer world meet and may disconnect. So this is the second time I'm talking to her. It's a cat. The cat keeps getting on the kitchen table and the counters, and she doesn't want it to. So I ask her, I say, okay, when you see the cat on the table, what do you say? And she says, well, I say, what does she say? Oh, don't get on the table, she says. No, sorry. She says, stay on the ground. And I'm like, okay, that's good, because I taught her the first phone call, we always have to say what we want and not what we don't want. Just like when we're talking to God in the universe, we don't say, we would say, I love living in this big, beautiful new home. We don't say, I hate this shabby little shack that I'm living in, I got to get out of here. Okay, because the picture we're creating, is it the big, beautiful new home, or do we want to create the picture of the little shabby shack? Well, we want the new home. So when we talk about how much we hate living in this shabby little shack all the time, that's the image God in the universe is getting. It's like, she really likes that. She talks about it all the time. She thinks about it. So that's where she's going to be. So same with the cat. She was telling the cat, and I told the cat, at first, the cat was good for a few days to stay on the ground. The table stays clean. You can go on the couch, just let the cat know what the rules are. And usually after I talk to them, they're good for a few days, and then sometimes they start to go back to the old habit. So I said, okay, that's good. So you're telling the cat to stay on the ground. You're not saying, don't get on the table, which creates the image of getting on the table, right? So knowing what we want and don't want is the start. But then the next thing is, I said, okay, so let's go through this scenario. When you're walking down the hallway before you get to the dining room, you're walking down and you're about to turn into the dining room where the table is. What do you see on the table? What do you see? She says, I see the cat on the table. She's always on the table. It's like, oh, she's always on the table. She's still going over that in her head. The cat knows, is picking up on these expectations that she wants me on the table. I'm always on the table, so I'm going to be on the table. Just like us and God and the universe, she really, I might say, I want to live in that big, beautiful home, but I could never do that. I don't know how to live in that. I only know how to live. I'm going to be in this shack forever. I don't know how I could even possibly do that. So our expectations include also our pictures and feelings. You know what? When you say it with emotion, when you say, don't get on the table with a lot of emotion, they really think you want it. And including God, it's like, she really wants that. He really wants that. So they really pay attention when you put that emotion behind it. So that's just one example of how what's going on inside us is being reflected in the outer world, and how your pets are reflecting your true expectations. And sometimes those expectations are going to come down to, beliefs and what we actually believe is possible for us. So, that's not this talk today, but that's where we need to start looking. What am I truly expecting? What's showing up in the world for me? And is it reflecting back what I think should be showing up in the world for me? And the other thing I want to talk about is values and how our values show up for ourselves. So our inner values, what we're expecting in the outer world. I want to ask you to just take a minute and think about what is really important to you. What do you believe your values are? Is family important? Is health important? Is time with good friends important? What is really important to you? Because ideally, people around you are going to know what's important to you by the way your outer world is showing up. Dr. John DeMartini has a whole list of, I think, 13 ways to look at your values, and I'm just going to go through 3 of them. So if you have an idea, and this is actually could be an hour-long exercise, but if you have an idea of what you believe your values are, so let me ask you, first thing, how do you spend your time? Does your time reflect those values? Are you saying your values are playing with the kids, but you come home late from work, and you get on TikTok and then you go to bed or something? Or, are you dedicating more time somewhere else or just zoning out and not actually putting your time with what's important to you? Because that's one of those places, it's like, family is so important to me. I actually discovered for myself that, well, I'll get to it in a minute, because that's not time, it's one of the other ones, so we'll get there in a minute. So is your time reflect what your values are? Are you really concerned about the environment? Are you out there doing any kind of volunteer work or, any kind of engagement with helping the environment? Whatever it is, whatever is yours to do. Whatever social cause it might be. Second part would be money. What do you spend your money on? And does that reflect what you say you value? Are you spending money on just random things you see at the store as you walk past them? Or are you intentionally putting your money in what you believe in? And energy. Third one, energy. What's taking up your energy? What do you think about? What's around you? How do you decorate your house, your home? So I did this exercise several years ago, and I was like, well, my kids are really important to me. My family is really important to me. And I looked around my living room, and there was not one picture of any family member anywhere in my house. It's like, well, really, they are important to me. And it doesn't have to be pictures of people, but what's taking up your energy? What do you think about? You know, what do you talk about? What do you read? What do you watch on TV? Are these things that are reflecting your values? What's important to you? What's meaningful to you? Because, again, we want those things inside us to reflect back to us from the world. We want to reflect that in the world. If I asked anyone else in here who might know you pretty well or might know you just a little bit, and I asked them to tell me about this, about you, what would they say? Do you think they would say what you think you're putting out there in the world? I know for me, I know I'm in alignment when someone says, oh yeah, that makes sense. So, for example, I'm an animal person, I'm an animal communicator. I take people on safaris to connect with animals. I do some work at some rescues and sanctuaries. I just like animals. I don't know. That's how I am. And they're important. And it's important to me that they're respected. And so when someone says to me, when we're talking, and they know me just a little bit, and they find out I'm a vegan, they're like, oh, that makes sense. It's like, yeah, that means I'm living my values. It means when I go to bed at night, I know that I've done what I need to do to feel good about myself. Because the other thing about not living our values, it chips away at our self-esteem, chips away at our self-worth. And one way that we get caught in this cycle of not being true to ourselves is lying. And trust me, I was raised in a family of liars. I mean, I had the dad that was a king of all liars and a sister, so I was well-groomed growing up to lying. And I realized during the divorce of my second marriage, that was all, done on a lie, that it would have been a lot easier if I hadn't lied in the first place. And that my relationships were not with friends, were not great. I didn't feel like I had any true friends. And so I started working with someone, I started working with a minister, and we started looking at this. And I realized that I didn't have reverence for my soul. And I think if you have reverence for your soul, instead of making an excuse about why you can't go somewhere, why you're not going to do something, just making excuses, sometimes little white lies are okay. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the ones that you have to manage because you told this person one thing and this person one thing, and all of a sudden they see you here, and now it's like, oh my God, that's taking too much energy to manage. So if we are honest, and if we realize that we are allowed to have opinions just because we have them, that we can have feelings just because we have them, we have preferences just because that's who we are, and we're okay. We're okay exactly like that. We don't have to make any excuses. And if we don't have to make any excuses, we don't have to lie about it. So again, that circle, it doesn't have to have that opening where we don't feel good. We're out of alignment, where we're just, oh, I have to do this again. I have to figure this out again because perhaps I wasn't honest about that. So as a practice, and it's not something that we're going to go through right now, but something you might want to consider doing a little bit later, and I wrote these down so I wouldn't forget. I just have to find them. Is you might want to have a little exercise where you take, maybe a half hour. And it can be a journal, you can paint, you can have a canvas. But what does your inner portrait look like? So what do you love to see in the world? What do you love to experience in the world? Who do you want to be in the world? If you could create your perfect world in, 5, 10 years, where people saw you a certain way, who would that be? And then once you feel like you have a good idea of who you are in this inner world, look and see, who do you think you are in the outer world? How do you think people see you? And we get feedback all the time. So that's the other thing, is the world is always giving us feedback of who they think we are and who we think we are. And you can also ask for feedback, what do you think about me? Sometimes we don't, not that we want to care, but we do want to know how we're showing up sometimes. But you usually don't even need to ask. Usually people say things, and they either hit you good, like yes, or they hit you kind of weird, and it's like, you think I'm that? Huh. I didn't think I was that. I thought I was showing up differently. So who do you want to be in the world? And what steps can you take to make it all align? If you don't feel like you're there right now, what steps is there to make it all align? Again, it's not an exercise to do right now, but it's something to begin to consider, because it feels a lot better. And if you feel like you have any self-worth or self-esteem issues, acting incongruent with your beliefs and your what's important to you really feels a lot better, and it really boosts you. In fact, I know that when I stopped lying and when I started telling people, I can't go, you don't have to be hard, but I might say, no, I can't go on Friday night with you. You don't have to give an excuse. I can't go Friday night. I'm busy. I'm busy sitting on my couch watching TV. You don't have to tell them that. It doesn't matter. And if they're pushing you for a reason, then that's their problem, not yours, right? You are allowed to be honest, and it makes you feel, trust me, it makes you feel better when you are, because you know you're being true to you. And that's what we want. That's our goal here, is to be true to us and to feel better about it. So I'm going to close with just remembering, where do you spend your time, energy, and money? And does it reflect who you want to be? And if you have cats, dogs, horses, what are they showing back to you? Are you showing what you truly want? Because that's just one piece of it, right? I mean, they're not going to show back to you if you're wanting a house or a mansion or a RV to live in, whatever the spectrum is. But they're a sign of how we're communicating outwardly from our inside. So let me close with a prayer, because I know that in this time, in this moment, that there is God, and in God is all potential, and in God is congruence, integrity, honesty, truth. God is truth. And so knowing that everyone here has the ability to express their truth, their full meaning in this world, it is different for all of us. We have our own beautiful thread to give to the world, to the tapestry in the world. We are our own colors of threads being woven together, and it is divinely us, and we deserve to be us. We deserve to be who we are. So knowing that this is the truth of God and this is the truth of us, I give thanks, knowing that we show up exactly how we want to, exactly how we are meant to, we show up in our divine glory. And there is nothing any different than our outside world and our inside world. It feels good. We are joyful. We feel absolutely satisfied. And I'm grateful knowing this is the truth. And I turn these words over to God, over to the law, knowing it is done now. We are our truth right now, here and now. And so it is. Amen. Thank you.
First and then sing? Sure.
Is that what we should do? Okay. All right. Oh, closing in prayer, knowing that this has been just whatever we divinely needed today. It is different for everyone, but because this is God and this is love and this is how God shows up in all of us, we take something away with us, something different for every person. And moving out into the week, we can take this divine spark of joy, of wisdom, of curiosity, and take it with us and explore the world, explore our lives as our divine selves, knowing this is the way we are meant to be. I am grateful, and I turn this over to God, and so it is. And so it is.